a few weeks later, the Egyptians warned that this operation that was going forward were in the advanced stages. And this is according to the Egyptian president, Hosni Mubarak himself. Then Germany. Germany warned that terrorists would use airplanes as weapons to attack, quote, American and Israeli symbols which stick out. Then Jordan warned that a major attack using aircraft is planned inside the United States. And by the way, they even said the name of the code name of the attack, which was the Big Wedding, which turned out to be the code name of the 9/11 attack. Russia warned that suicide pilots were training for attacks on U.S. targets. And then the head of Russian intelligence later stated, "We clearly warned the U.S. on several occasions, but they did not pay the necessary attention." And then the Taliban, actually, one of the foreign ministers of the Taliban himself was kind of upset with the other leaders, didn't want the attack to go forward, so he warned that Al-Qaeda was going to plan an imminent huge attack, quote unquote, inside the U.S. that would kill thousands of people. And funnily enough, the excuse in the news reports about why this wasn't taken seriously is it said because the U.S. intelligence agencies were suffering from warning fatigue. They were getting so many warnings that they just couldn't handle it anymore. Even Argentina gave a warning because not a lot of people know this, but there's a little sort of a pocket of Al-Qaeda in the Argentina area. France gave a warning. It's an echo of an Israeli warning. And I'll tell you the Israeli warning. They warned, well, they had two separate warnings. First one, they said 50 to 200 Al-Qaeda terrorists are inside the U.S. and planning an imminent, quote, major assault, unquote, aimed at a, quote, large-scale target, unquote. And then this is probably the most remarkable warning, is that according to Der Spiegel and some other newspapers in Europe, a few weeks before the attack, before 9/11, Israel actually gave the U.S. a list of 19 terrorists. Now, we don't know if that's the exact same 19. However, the reports specify that 4 of the names were the same, including Mohammed Atta, Marwan al-Shihi, and the 2 hijackers in San Diego, al-Midar and al-Hazmi. So these are the leaders of the 9/11 plot. And according to Der Spiegel, all these names were given to the U.S. government. Morocco gave a warning saying that Al-Qaeda is planning large-scale operations in New York City in the fall of 2001, possibly targeting the World Trade Center. So I could go on. These are just some selected warnings that I've given. But as you can see, there's so many warnings that, in fact, in the middle of August, Kofor Black, who's the head of the CIA's Counterterrorism Center, he was speaking at a convention of counterterrorist officials in a public venue, and he said, quote, "We are going to be struck soon. Many Americans are going to die, and it could be in the U.S." And later on, he said that the top leaders were unwilling to act unless they were told that the attack was coming within the exact day, and here is what they are going to hit. So in other words, he's saying that basically the leaders didn't care to stop the attack, made no moves to defend the United States unless they were told exactly the day and the location of what the attack would be. And in fact, we can see that the Bush administration did absolutely nothing despite all these warnings. There was one thing that I found interesting in the 9/11 Commission hearings is that Transportation Secretary Norman Mineta, who is still the Transportation Secretary for Bush, he was asked, so can you point to one thing that the Bush administration did before 9/11 that helped safeguard the U.S.? And he said no. Wasn't a single thing. So that's the first part of my talk. The second part, I want to talk about the issue of Pakistan. I could also talk about Saudi Arabia, but I don't have time for that. But between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, these are the two countries that you think would have given the U.S. warnings. I mean, here we're getting Argentina, all these countries, Morocco are warning the U.S. But, you know, the two countries, Pakistan, extremely closely tied to the Taliban. They basically, you know, created the Taliban, and Taliban was their puppet, as even the 9/11 Commission has stated. And then Saudi Arabia, where all the hijackers are from, Osama bin Laden's from, we don't get any warnings from those two countries. And I think there's significant evidence that the Pakistani intelligence agency actually had a very direct role in the plot. It's a very unusual intelligence agency. It's called the ISI. And it got very rich off of drug money. So rich from all the opium and heroin coming from Afghanistan and moving through Pakistan that it's self-funding. So it's basically politically autonomous, and people call it a state within a state. It can basically do whatever it wants. Some people say that the ISI is more powerful than the actual Pakistani government. And as the Wall Street Journal has said, quote, despite their clean chins and pressed uniforms, the ISI men are as deeply fundamentalist as any bearded fanatic. The ISI created the Taliban as their own instrument and still supports it. So there's essentially you cannot see a difference between the ISI and the Taliban, and in my opinion, Al-Qaeda. They all are essentially the same group of people. And in fact, there was some U.S. reporters went to Afghanistan just right before 9/11, and they said everything here that we've seen, everything the Taliban has, the water, the oil, the food, everything's coming from the ISI. They're just complete puppets of the ISI.